So one of the most important things, net neutrality is going to be voted down. The protections of net neutrality are going to be voted down by the FCC, whose chair is Ajit Pai, and it's going to be horrendous for the internet as you know it, period. Now, what we're going to be looking at today is this video that Crowder made, and he's talked about this even more recently too, but this is like the main video I could find of him talking about this. But Crowder and I believe Shapiro also, they actually are opponents of net neutrality, and I wanted to talk about this and talk about the arguments and boil it down to kind of what I think is extremely destructive. But let's look at Steven Crowder's kind of the crux of his argument and this analogy that he used. Check it out.
Another example, say the Postal Service. Let's say one person wants to mail a letter. Now person number 2 wants to mail a kettlebell. Now you can't charge person number 2 any more to ship that heavy, cumbersome kettlebell, and despite this envelope being easy to ship and relatively cheap, that envelope can't get there any more quickly than the 50-pound kettlebell. It has to arrive at the same time to ensure fairness. That's net neutrality. My back.
So that analogy is totally wrong, and this is really why I don't like analogies. But what he's saying is basically both things arrive at the same time, but this is false, okay? And this is why, you know, analogies are really shitty, especially when it comes to you're comparing mail service to internet service. You're comparing technology to man-made, you know, obviously internet's man-made as well, but you get my point. But what I'm trying to say here is think about this, okay? You pay for 100 megabits per second for your internet service provider to give you, right? You have 100 megabits per second, whatever, you're streaming YouTube and you're pulling up Facebook. Facebook is a lot smaller, you know, it requires a lot less bandwidth, and it's going to, and in exchange for that, it's going to take less time to load. So they're not arriving at the same time, they're loading at the same speed. So if something is larger, takes up more bandwidth, it's going to take longer to get there. It's not going to get there at the same time, asshole. It's going to take longer to get there. But what you're getting is the speed that you paid for is the same all across the board for everything you want. Because what happens if they can just say, you know what? YouTube is going to load slow for you guys. You know what's going to happen? People who work 8-hour days and they want to come home and watch some content and, you know, do whatever, right? Are they going to watch YouTube if it's buffering all the time, it's shitty quality, shitty resolution? No, they're going to switch over, and that's what you should be thinking about because it's what the consumer is doing. And this idiot's main thing is YouTube, and he's about to get fucked in the asshole and he doesn't even know it. And so it's not, the analogy is wrong. It's dead. His conclusion, the comparison, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. The kettle and the mail, which are shitty comparison again, but they're not arriving at the same time, okay? You download something that is the size of a gigabyte, and you download the size of something that's a megabyte, they're not arriving at the same time. They're not arriving at the same time. What it does is, it takes longer for the file that's a gigabyte to download, but it's downloading at the same speed, and that's what the key is. So you're wrong. And now what we're gonna be looking at here is, you know, he tries to gotcha like this girl that he's interviewing, whatever. He's gonna say, "Can you give me an example?" Check that out too.
It seems to me the key points he seemed to hammer home there was really the sort of the threat of corporations essentially allocating bandwidth and information, favoring perhaps some sites or some corporations. That seemed to be the main concern. Would you say that was kind of what he was talking about in the speech?
Yeah, absolutely. The main concern is that we lose the freedom to be able to create jobs and to create money without having a very disproportionate playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
Could you cite a single case where that's happened yet?
Where that's happened yet?
See, she didn't have an answer for that, but...
Okay, so I think this video was made in like 2011 or something, but just in 2014, Comcast actually made Netflix's loading slower, and as a result of that, Netflix had to pay Comcast so that they would stop slowing down the connections. Because you know what happens when slower connections happen? People aren't going to watch your content. They're not going to watch Netflix if it's slow as shit and you're spending your day waiting super long for it to load and for it to buffer and low resolution. It happened. Just because it didn't happen doesn't mean that you want to let it happen. And here's the main thing that I wanted to boil it down to, okay? And this is why these people are so dangerous, okay? And this has happened on a lot of different occasions too, I've seen Ben Shapiro, say that the government breaking up monopolies of Microsoft is, it was unfairly broken up, but that didn't happen. And okay, so basically what I'm trying to say here is what does it boil down to here? A brutal hatred of the government, okay? And the argument that it's going to spur any kind of jobs, that's totally wrong, total bullshit, period. Because what's going to happen... Here's the thing also, by the way. Internet service providers, I believe it's over 30% of Americans can't choose between two or more internet service providers. So where they live, there's only one fucking option. There's only one option. So you have no choice. You know what that's called? That's called a monopoly. Could you imagine giving a monopoly the power to be able to say, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna make Netflix. We're gonna make YouTube slower for you guys. What are you gonna do? You're fucked. It's over. What are you gonna do? You can't switch. You can't make it go faster. There is nothing, and I repeat, nothing you can do, okay? And what else is it gonna do? It's not gonna increase any jobs, because if you start up new businesses and Netflix wasn't as big as it is now one day. There's gonna be another Netflix. There's gonna be other kinds of services that come up in the future. How are they supposed to come up and create those jobs and spur the economy if they're getting slower? If they're getting slower speeds from the people who have internet, and they're not gonna watch it because it's slow as shit. And this is the thing. They're dead wrong in this issue, and I was straight up shocked to believe that there were actually people who were opponents of net neutrality, and this is the massive danger that exists from these crazy right-wing douchebags. Support independent progressive media by leaving a subscription down below, leave a like and share the video, help us out on Patreon, or you can donate in other ways. Links are in the description down below. We are fighting Trump tooth and nail, and we will continue to do so with your help.